The president's reversal on withdrawing troops from Afghanistan is an admission, essentially, that things haven't been going as he thought they would over there. But could the reason for that be the White House's military micromanagement that mucked the situation up in the first place? Former Defense Secretary Robert Gates had some thoughts on this when interviewed by our own Bret Baier on Fox News this week. Take a listen.
It was the operational micromanagement that drove me nuts, of White House and NSC staffers calling senior commanders out in the field and asking them questions, of second-guessing commanders. That's the kind of thing that made me crazy.
Joining me now is Chris Harmer from the Institute for the Study of War and former State Department official Christian Whiten. Good to see you, gentlemen. So, Chris, what do you make of Gates' comments?
Well, I think his comments stand on their own. My frustration with this is seeing staffers essentially in the White House and the National Security Council calling senior commanders. There's just no place for that. Everybody acknowledges that under our constitutional system, the military is responsible to the Constitution, and the Constitution says that the president is the commander-in-chief. The way the president and his staff should communicate with military leaders in the field is directly through the Secretary of Defense. That's the right way to do it. When you have people jumping outside of the chain of command, it confuses things, it introduces friction, it saps morale. It's bad for everybody.
But, Christian, the president is at the top of that chain of command. Chain of command is absolutely critical to our system, to our political military system. But if the commanders on the field do not respect the commander-in-chief, you're in trouble, right?
You are in trouble, but nonetheless, you as the new president, and we have to remember this strategy was the beginning of the Obama administration. He came in and very promptly said we were going to pursue a counterinsurgency strategy in Afghanistan like the one that had worked successfully in Iraq, although he didn't give it credit. But then he spent months and months dithering over the resources that would be committed to this, putting the strategy first, then dithering over 30,000 troops. Not a lot of troops, frankly, when you look at military history, including recent military history. So this endless deliberation by a litigator-in-chief.
But, Chris, the mistrust seems to be on both sides. I mean, not only do the commanders seem to mistrust the president, but the president sometimes seems to be blaming the military when things go wrong. Very recently, in this program, $500 million program to train Syrian anti-ISIS fighters that ended up with just 5 of those fighters, he seemed to say the other day it was the military's fault, saying, look, I was against it from the beginning, but I was talked into it. I mean, there's a blame game going on here that's not very helpful to our foreign policy.
Yeah, not in the least. Look, when you're in command, take charge of the situation, make decisions, execute those decisions. From my perspective as a strategic analyst, I agree wholeheartedly with General MacArthur, who said every single military failure can be described in 2 words: too late. President Obama made his decisions regarding Iraq and Syria and training those rebels too late. By the time that decision was made and implemented, the radical rebels on the far radical extremist terrorist groups had already gained supremacy.
It was a disaster. Everybody admits it was a disaster. Christian, just one final. We only have 10 seconds. One final question. The trouble that we now see in the Middle East, particularly in Israel, we're trying to inject our diplomatic skills, if you can call them that, into the situation. John Kerry wants to go over there. Is all of this mess up that we've been talking about the reason why he's not going to succeed at that?
Yeah, he won't succeed because he has moral equivalence and doesn't recognize who's really at fault here. And John Kerry has one thing in common with all of the Democrats on the debate stage the other day. He can't utter the 2 words, radical Islam. Can't name the enemy, can't beat the enemy. Simple as that.
Christian Whiten, Chris Harmer, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good discussion. Appreciate it. Melissa.